ideas, and it needed to be.
I don't see this as a setup right away for Kang Dynasty. It just seems too distant. I see it more as a setup for maybe another multiverse story, maybe Deadpool 3 or something like that. We might get a reference to it, but
I think that I don't want to spoil anything, but it seems like with this multiverse and branches, we're going to sort of steer away from the gods and superheroes that we've seen, and it's going to take a different sort of mutated step, maybe.
Yeah, I think right now, like, doing a true multiverse saga, you have to have the right people in play to do it. It's worked with Loki. We had some fun with it with the Spider-Man in No Way Home. But really, you need to introduce the Fantastic Four before you can have, like, a real multiverse saga. Like, it's tough. We have to... It almost really just works when you have a character who's already appeared on the ground so much that now you're ready to take them out throughout the multiverse. So
that's going to happen May 2nd, 2025.
That's when Fantastic Four is coming. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the 2024 Marvel movies, in my opinion, don't need to have anything to do with the multiverse. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the 2025 movies. Yeah. Other than, like, Fantastic Four, I think the other ones, Thunderbolts, Captain 4, and Blade, don't need to go into multiverse. Okay, Mod, let's do our heat check. With a huge week for Marvel and a lot of news about the new special delayed, what's the temperature of the MCU right now? Do you think we're still on an upswing, or is there still more valleys you get?
I think that Loki has delivered in terms of quality instead of quantity. They're not turning out to 10 episodes. I think that they've done the best with those episodes in terms of storytelling. I think you're exactly right. They are going to slow their roll. When you look at sort of the last few years and the things that they've introduced that haven't gone anywhere, Harry Styles was in Eternals. What's going on with Eternals? What's going on with that character? There's been quite a few carrot dangles, and now it's like there's real freaking carrots and someone feels like corn, you know? Like, I don't know, I just feel like there were way too many cooks or there were way too many ideas. They were branching. This is why you need to say good job.
He was asked by Ash about this on the red carpet.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, Kevin, Harry Styles is interested and excited. We're excited. And it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah. It sounds like you promised something and then maybe some contracts in play here, but there was just too many ideas and it needed to be streamlined.
Here's what I'm excited for. I think Marvel is not dead. And I am just, what really bugs me is just we laugh about this narrative that, like, Marvel's dead. And right now, you know, it's Sunday when this is coming out, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of buzz around the Marvel's box office performance. And a lot of people are going to be like, see, told you so. I understand that people on the internet may say that. I think folks who work in the media and talk about movies for a living, you should, you know, like, just look at every other movie studio. They would kill to trade places with Marvel Studios right now, regardless of the Marvel's box office performance. Maybe not Universal, because Universal's had a hell of a year with Mario and Oppenheimer. So maybe they aren't feeling that way.
Sell the movie!
With Avi Arad! Woohoo!
So excited.
Let's go!
Yeah.
I think, like, with Loki, it is... I can understand if you think, like, numbers may be off, but the creative triumph of Loki and how much fun the Marvels was and how much fun Iman Vellani is. Like, I think no other, like, movie studio has something that is still that strong of a franchise where people are still going to come back for Deadpool 3 and Fantastic Four. You know? Like, that's why I say Marvel's best days are still ahead of it, because I think people overpraised the Infinity Saga, which was still an amazing accomplishment, but they did it without, like, the cool characters in Marvel canon. Like, we have a future with a Fantastic Four coming back and with X-Men showing up. Like, how can you say that Marvel's best days are behind it, where for many years all we had to work with was, like, Ant-Man and Thor? I think we've all said, enough about how awesome some of the Thor movies are. They all do good work. I think Chris Hemsworth has been great for the MCU.
He's been great for Australia.
He's been great for a lot of things. But, like, it's just, like, I think people view the Infinity Saga as this flawless, unimpeachable thing, and that there's no way Marvel Studios can top it. And it's like, cool your jets. Like, the Infinity Saga was an incredible triumph, but
I think it's because everything was going in that direction and then it paid off, you know? So that was like structurally what they were doing with all their programming, with all the movies, with the characters that came together. It was great. And then you have something like Loki where I think it's so clever that they open up the drawer and there are Infinity Stones in it. You know, so you just get a real scale sense of what nearly, you know, what the whole precipice of Endgame and all of that was all about with these Infinity Stones, and then they are so obsolete. You know, they have no power and they mean nothing in the TVA. So I thought that was a really, really cool shift. What I think is happening, I think the strike has forced these networks to take a beat. Instead of that strategy, instead of hitting those deadlines, instead of making sure that there's, you know, a lot of learning, there was a forced pause. And in that, I think they're kind of reassessing. DC's been doing it for a little while, and I think that this pause has meant that they are right. We've done that one. We're going into a whole new vision, a whole new phase. You know, buckle up. The ride's just beginning. And I think Marvel also said, okay, we did the next thing, and now it's like, take a beat. What's this upcoming slate look like? What do we need? What's important? Yeah, I just think that this time, yes, it's going to push things back, but I do think that there is going to be more of a focus on quality over quantity. And that is the difference between sort of like Loki and Secret Invasion kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, we'll leave it there for this episode of The Sneak Peek. Dawn, it's been great chatting with you, and thanks for joining us every week on Inside Marvel. Just being able to talk about Loki with you throughout these past
What a
weeks
great
has
season.
been amazing.
It's been great.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me have some quite outlandish theories from time to time.
We wouldn't have it any other way, Maud. So follow Maud on Twitter at Maud Garrett. You can follow me at EA Boss. I'll see you all next week, and thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.
Marvels is, of course, now open in theaters, and it has opened to a record low of $47 million in its opening weekend. Now, granted, there are movies that could get made that would pop bottles if they're making $47 million opening weekend, but this is not any movie. This is an MCU movie. Where prior to this weekend, the lowest opening weekends of all time was The Hulk at 55 and Ant-Man at 57. Well, this blew those away at 47. Now, you guys will remember, for a number of weeks, I've been running down the four main points about why I've been saying, guys, this film is going to have some major struggles at the box office. And then you guys remember last week, I was sitting here bringing up all the charts at AMC Theater showing you empty seats like an IMAX screen on opening night at 8:30 p.m. with 8 tickets sold. And we actually did a video last week before the movie opened saying this movie's going to open way below projected. And it opened to $47 million. A movie that cost $220 to make and roughly about $100 million they spent to market it. You're talking about a movie that needs to make at bare minimum somewhere in the $450 to $500 million range just to break even. I'm going to make a wild prediction here. It ain't going to break even. This is going to be another money loser. And by the way, I'm not hating on it. I'm not hating on it. I did not love this movie, but I appreciate it. Rob and I were talking beforehand, and I said, look, with all these problems that I had with the movie is fairly saved for me by the chemistry of the main characters, Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel, and some good comedy. I know comedy's been a sore point for the MCU, but there's some good comedy in this one. There is. So that was enough to save the movie for me. So I liked it, but at $47 million. Now, many of you have heard these 4 points because we've been harping on these 4 points for the last 3 months, it feels like. But I want to go over 4 main contributors about why we should not be shocked at how low the opening weekend of this movie was. Let's take a look at these. First off is the state of the MCU. But we've talked about this a million times. We talked about it in relation to the Marvels. Every time you put out a movie in your franchise and it's awesome, you build hype for the next one. But every time you put out a chapter of your franchise and it's less than what people were hoping it would be, you lower enthusiasm. And the last 3 years, 4 years, have mostly been Marvel decreasing the enthusiasm its fan base has for their movies. They've had some winners. Shang-Chi, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, they've had some winners. But in the old days, pre-2018, you'd have one underwhelming one for every 4 or 5 bangers that everybody loved. And so they would hit a road bump once in a while with a substandard movie. It was like, you know what, it doesn't matter. That was barely a speed bump in the MCU because they got so much momentum, so much positive hype, they'll be fine. And then they put out 3 more bangers in a row after that. That's fine. We don't live in that era anymore. We live in a period of time right now where we have gone, as I've said many times, from expecting a Marvel project to be great to now we just hope it's just good. That's where we're at now. That is the reality of where we're at. We no longer go into a Marvel film expecting it to be awesome. We go in hoping it'll at least be good. And even then, it doesn't live up to our hopes sometimes. And as we've progressed, the enthusiasm and the hype and the anticipation for new Marvel properties has continued to drop and drop and drop and drop and drop. That's the state of the MCU. That's where we're at right now. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was great. But if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out in 2018, that movie's a $1.1 billion. And do you think
No!
that movie came out in 2018?
Oh my god!
It's a $1.1
Fucking! Ugh, so annoying. That is so annoying.
It's still there, but we do not feel that enthusiasm.
So
we don't feel like it's an event anymore to get out to the next Marvel thing. Number one, because they no longer over-deliver like they used to. And number two, there's just so much of it now that it's just not an event watching. So that's the state of the MCU. The second thing that we've talked a lot about over the past couple of months when it comes to the Marvels is the subpar marketing campaign. They just never did anything to get us excited. And when they did, they lied.
Why did this talk like DJ Khaled?
I'm not going to go off on that whole rant again. So it was just simple. We talked about it many, many, many times on this show. That they had a pedestrian.
T-Pain is not getting
and the funny thing is,
money for that.
Yeah, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. When it comes to the villain, Darben, there was some interesting stuff you could have put in the trailer. Have her voice going, "My world is dying. My people are suffering." Like, just put a little bit of that narration in the trailer, and suddenly we might feel something for this new villain. They didn't, so they failed, and it became a very, very generic, insert comic book cliche here kind of feeling marketing campaign. And, we talked about this with Rebel Moon. The job of trailers is to get you more excited for something. None of the Marvel's trailers got us more excited. So we had the state of the MCU we've talked about for months. We've talked about the subpar marketing for the Marvels. Also this. Look, I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but there is a reason a lot of big movies have moved out of their release dates. It's because the actors strike and the actors couldn't go out and promote the film. Why do you think Dune moved? Dune moved because they couldn't send out their actors to promote the film. And this was the first Marvel film that they weren't able to send out the cast to go out and stump and promote the film. And we have found out over the past 4 months that is way more important to a film's overall marketing campaign than anybody ever realized. And we've seen the repercussions of some films that didn't push their release dates and suffered. Now look, is that the difference between a $47 million opening and a $110 million opening? No, but it did have an impact. So you got the state of the MCU, the subpar marketing campaign, the cast couldn't go out to promote the film. But then there's this last one. Average fans had no idea who Monica or Kamala are. Now, somebody once in an open mic brought this up to me, Rob. And it was a point well made, but they asked, well, John, when the Guardians of the Galaxy was first coming out, the first film, nobody knew the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? True enough. The difference, though, that I explained was that everybody knew that these were brand new characters. The average person sitting at home seeing that trailer knew that nobody else knew who they were either. We're all starting from scratch. I'm not behind. But in talking to a couple of friends of mine, and many of you guys wrote into me and told me the same thing, a lot of average film goers who have never seen WandaVision, never saw Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus, suddenly watched these trailers and they felt like they were behind. It felt like, well, people are supposed to know who these two other characters are. I remember Captain Marvel. They did a movie about her, right? Yeah. They did one about her. Okay, yeah, but I don't know who these other two. And it feels like everybody else already knows who they are. Of course, a lot of people didn't. But they promoted this thing as the Marvels, and they promoted it as if people were supposed to know who these characters are. And I think a lot of average film fans looked at that and said, "Oh, I'm behind." One of our regular viewers, Chef Rigo, my gym. We both go to the UFC gym in the mornings, and I remember he even came up to me. He saw me there one morning a week or two ago, and came up and said, "Hey, okay, so should I go see the Marvels because I haven't seen Ms. Marvel?" Like, and I think that is representative of a lot of people. It's like they just felt like, well, if I didn't watch that stuff, I'm going to be lost. And again, is that the difference between a $47 million opening and a $110 million opening? No. But it very well could have been the difference between a $47 million opening and a $58 million opening or $62 million opening. You start now, put that all together with the state of the MCU, subpar marketing campaign, actors not being able to go to the road, and having trailers or featuring characters that a lot of average film fans have no idea who they are because they don't have Disney Plus or never watch those shows. We have been saying, Rob, for months that this is a recipe for potential disaster. And the financial disaster.
What am I missing? Where's
we're acknowledging this is just the opening
the
weekend.
lifting weight?
I mean, the opening weekend for the Elemental was disastrous too, and that turned out to be just
Great.
Maybe that happens with the Marvels. I doubt it, but I'm not going to take away this possibility there. It only had its first opening weekend, whatever. But Rob, if they had done any of this right, if they had had a strong MCU going into this movie, if they had had a strong marketing campaign, if they had done more or marketed this film differently so people didn't feel like they needed to know who these other characters are going into it, if they could have had the actors and the stars going out promoting it, I don't think we're looking at Captain Marvel opening numbers, but I think we're looking at better opening numbers. At any rate, Rob, we saw this is now the lowest opening MCU film they've ever made. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Guys, the holidays are right around the corner, and HelloFresh can help take the stress out of dinner by delivering everything you need to cook up tasty meals right to your door, saving you tons of time. We all know the holidays can be hectic, and that's where HelloFresh's 15-minute meals come in. These quick fixes help you get a wholesome meal on the table in less time than it takes to get delivery. I've told you guys many times before that Ann and I, being working professionals, often would struggle when it comes to dinner time, having time to put something that tastes good and is healthy for us in front of us. Well, HelloFresh, with their great delivery, pre-portioned ingredients, easy to follow instructions, has made dinner time a fun time. So go to HelloFresh.com/CampiaFree and use the code CampiaFree for breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/CampiaFree with the code CampiaFree.
Yeah.
What's your take on that and some of the circumstances I talked about?
Well, first of all, Guardians of the Galaxy is a different. When you watch that trailer, even though you don't know it, John, we don't know who the characters are in any movie. The movie tells us the story and introduces those characters to us. But the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer was really funny. And it was really interesting. They're a bunch of a-holes. And, you had Star-Lord.
The whole prank of the middle finger.
And you're looking at Rocket and all that stuff. So immediately, it doesn't matter if you know these characters or not. That trailer sets a tone. Yeah. That's snarky and somewhat adult.
Even the posters were like, Marvel presents the Guardians of the Galaxy, you're welcome.
Right.
We're just like, who?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there was a tone of it in there that was really fun. That I think people want to see.
And
Now
they use the trailers to also introduce us to those characters, right?
100%. I think the real problem with this movie is they're showing these three characters, these three heroes, and Monica Rambeau, by the way, is my Captain Marvel. Growing up reading Avengers comics in the 80s, she was Captain Marvel, and I always loved her. But anyway, that said, when you're watching this, I'm like, why am I supposed to care about the story that's being told? According to the trailers, the big problem in the script is that these three characters are switching powers, and it's like, it's kind of slapsticky. And I didn't really want that from Captain Marvel. I wanted, as I was telling you, I wanted to see the Winter Soldier or the Empire Strikes Back of Captain Marvel's story. And I feel that the story itself that they chose to focus on was not the story that people who enjoy the MCU wanted to see. And I think they could have given us, give Captain Marvel's gravitas and give her, she needed to be defined in this movie. And it felt like she was playing second fiddle to everybody else. And I thought that was an odd choice. That said, the best thing about the movie was the chemistry between the three of them.
I agree.
And I thought that was a lot of fun. But then give them something that would define the three of them. Something that was both personal and, of course, dire. And we could have really invested in it. But as myself, we're now past the 30 mark of MCU movies. Every MCU movie, you got to step up your game. It doesn't necessarily have to be apocalyptic. But it has to be a story that your long-time, well-deserved audience deserves. And I feel like we're not seeing that anymore. You've got to give us post-Endgame stories that mean something.
By the way, I want to address something here quick before I get one of our live viewers, Neo Swift, is saying you're wrong. People hadn't seen the movie yet. So who are you referring to when you say that the fans wanted a different story? I think, good catch. I think what Rob is saying and what I'm saying is that the trailers told us that this movie is about these three heroes who switch places when they use powers. And that's not even really what the movie's about, but they told us that was the movie was about, and it was about them. That's what they told us. So when we're saying that it wasn't the movie that I think a lot of people were looking for, again, that's a failure of the marketing. We're not saying that was the movie they were looking for that they watched, but they presented a movie that probably didn't look interesting.
You're exactly right. And also, John, I love building the team. Having characters come together and learning to work together. I've always loved that. I think that's a trope in storytelling that done well can really, really work. And putting these characters together, that idea is appealing to me. I'm like, I'll watch that, but now give me a great story that's worthy. I felt, like you said, the villain wasn't that compelling. They didn't do enough of a job of developing her story. You had a great fix on that when we were talking about that before the show. And I'm thinking, we're talking about a series of movies that have given us Winter Soldier, that have given us No Way Home. You have three Spider-Men having to team up. There's been these films have been so satisfying, and this film felt like an afterthought.
Rick, I just want to say that I enjoyed Marvel, but you guys are right with your points. I mean, I don't know. But how much did you say the budget was?
$220 million.
Okay, well, I'm moving on to the next, and the next is Godzilla -1. Guess how much that budget is?
$300 million.
$15 million.
No.
Can't be. So if that movie looks like that for $15 million, Marvel, you need to start restructuring your stuff so you can keep the costs down a little bit.
Well, interestingly, too, I'm looking at just Box Office Mojo. So the opening for this falls between Shazam 2 on the low end and The Flash on the high end. This is in the middle of those two. So we're in DCEU opening.
Yeah, that's where we've come to.
Quantumania opened to $106 million. So
yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy opened to 100. I want to say 18 or something like that. Again, it was the third one of Guardians of the Galaxy. I get that. I understand. But yeah, I mean, it's just there was a lot of stuff here that a lot of mistakes were made in the build-up to this movie. And again, I'm not hating on the movie. In general, in a thumbs-up or thumbs-down movie, I appreciated this movie. I even liked it a little bit more the second time I saw it.
Do you think this movie is the point where people could point out this is the movie that lost everybody? or something. I think this is the movie, or was there a movie before where you saw this?
I think Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was where we started hearing some people going, okay, I might be done this now. But Secret Invasion, I think that happened a little bit with She-Hulk. I think it happened a little bit with Secret Invasion. And I think, I think this movie is better than She-Hulk, better than Secret Invasion, better than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But it's still down on the lower rung of the overall MCU film.
But didn't Guardians come out after Ant-Man?
Guardians came out after Ant-Man.
Yeah, so I'm playing a little tug of war game with.
And that's what's been going on for the last 3.5 years. Is like they'll put a couple of crappy things, then something will come outside and remind us, hey, remember, the MCU can be really good. Then a couple of more subpar things.
Someone in the chat, like at the beginning of the show, was saying, like, they mentioned like a movie, the MCU's dead, and then something else comes out, the MCU's back, and then something else comes out, the MCU's dead, and it's like that movie was different.
Shang-Chi back, man. Just bring it back already.
I mean, they do have the banger of all bangers coming out next.
Their next film is the only MCU film coming out now in 2024. There's only one MCU film coming out in 2024. Downpour. Deadpool 3 is coming, which I am now, one of our viewers sent us in, and I now believe it should be called Deadpool 3.
Deadpool 3, what?
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what?
Who said
I
it?
don't think that's out
Hey,
of
that
the
man.
possibility.
That woman who said it.
Third. It's not Taylor Swift. So who's the third? Third is. My goodness. Anyway, guys.
My goodness.
I think it's safe to say, I don't think anybody thinks that Deadpool 3 is in any danger of breaking the Marvel's record for the lowest opening weekend. I mean, I still think Deadpool 3 is going to be $1 billion. I gotta call it right. I think Deadpool 3 is going to be.
It's great.
Well, now they can focus this entire lead up.
Even if it's not great, I think it's going to make $700 million.
I'm looking forward to whatever Deadpool 3 is called, if only for the marketing campaign.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I mean, I don't know what it's going to be, but I just know it's going to be wildly. I mean, I hope Disney doesn't tamp it down. I hope they're allowed to do what they did for Deadpool 1 and 2, because, man, that's going to be fun to watch.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Candy Show Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it. The Marvels is now out in the theaters, and you know it's polarizing. There are critics that like it, critics that don't. I mean, it's got a 62% critic score and 84% the last time I checked, 84% audience score. It doesn't mean the audience loved it. It just means 84% of them said they liked it. But it's been very polarizing and what have you. But one of the big things we've talked about the Marvels over the past couple of months is its pedestrian activity that really didn't want you to get excited. Well, then all of a sudden, in the final 2 weeks leading up to the Marvels coming out, they put out a couple of spots.
All right. Good for you.
They showed Thanos.
Good for you, Travis. Good for you. Now you're gonna die.
Never in any of the other movies, saying the line,
Maybe not.
you know, or whatever, and it's like, whoa, wait, what?
Thought I was playing range.
Did that just give us a glimpse into a little bit about what this movie's about? Because we didn't really know at the time. But then they put out what they called their final trailer. And in that final trailer, they made it very clear. Thanos, or at least his plan, was an important part of this upcoming Marvel's movie. When it said this, Captain Marvel says in the final main trailer, "We destroyed Thanos, but it's not over." Then it cuts to Thanos' voice. "My work is inevitable. There will always be more to finish it." And the moment he says it, there will always be more to finish it, hard cut to Dar-Ben,
All right, let me
the new
pause this.
villain in the Marvels. side here is clear. They were telling the audience, "Big guy."
Ahead of the next Avengers film, which was set to start production towards the end of this year and earlier next year, obviously everything got delayed due to the actors and writers' strike. We heard that the writer of the film, Jeff Loveness, was given the boot. Well, now it's been confirmed, and we even have a reason as to why, and it's all related to Kang. So once again, this comes out from the people that work on MCU, the Reign of Marvel Studio. Specifically the author, Joanne Robinson, who recently appeared on The Ringer's House of Art. And when they were talking about Marvel Studios and what they know, what they can talk about, this is what she said, and I quote, "The screenwriter, Jeff Loveness, who wrote Quantumania, was supposed to write the Kang Dynasty. Anyway, it's confirmed. I had it confirmed to me that he's no longer working for Marvel. I asked the person why, and they said the reason why is that he was all wrapped up in the Kang storyline, and they are likely going to move away from that." And so there it is, another report that they are looking to ditch Kang and possibly in a whole sort of a quick manner, sidestep him, get rid of him quickly, and move on to another film. Again, this all seems to stem from Jonathan Majors' legal troubles and everything like that, which is unfortunate.
I gotta change this.
Really recast Kang.
This can't be a main color. It's gotta be
I
an
think they're finding out that maybe the whole Kang thing isn't working for them, and that maybe it's a little bit too convoluted and, well, hurting the MCU, which I would say is a factor in it that I've expressed, I think other people have expressed. Now, the further we're getting into the MCU, the more we're seeing the effects. It just doesn't have the grip on the MCU yet. So far, we've had 3 versions of Kang, all actually even more versions of Kang, if I really think about it, that have all been defeated and made to look like jobbers. It doesn't add a whole lot of excitement, especially with what they did to the Conquerors in Quantumania. So I can see why this is a thing, and honestly, I want to say I'm shocked, but I'm not. This is kind of expected. And the fact that now we're getting a confirmation of somebody that's very close to this, and has proven that that book is, for me, all on point, and everything we're learning is confirmed. This is just another, I think, piece in the hole for them. And it's going to be interesting to see what type of response, if anything, Marvel does. But I would not be surprised if Kang Dynasty is truly the end of Kang. It's kind of going to be like a lesser Ultron villain, and then after that, it's just like, all right, we shaped it, the Secret Wars is completely different, give it a little bit more time to be an build the stuff properly like we did before.
Give me a weapon.
Forget Kang ever happened. That definitely seems to be the case. Now, again, I'm hoping in the next couple days, weeks, maybe even months, we get some sort of clarification from everybody involved on all the sides, because this is a rather seismic shift, right? It's huge. Like, what type of ripple effect does this have? Because they committed to Kang, now pulling back on it. I mean, maybe we want to keep focused by time, but again, I'm just really interested in how you pivot.
Well, hello there, my beautiful movie peeps, or should I say, hola. From Mexico! That's right, guys, that's where I've been today, speaking on the last night. So again, it's kind of an entertaining time here. I went to the little flea market, what they got going on here. I found a whole booth dedicated to just knock off Chucky stuff. And oh my, I couldn't resist, guys. I bought something. Let me just show this off to you. So they had some, like, Chucky sneakers. Obvious knockoffs. No way Nike produced these. I would have known it. They had these Freddy Krueger ones that were made way back and are now, like, outrageously expensive online. Good people of Mexico, you know they had to manufacture those because they knew I would be in town. I got this in pesos for the equivalent of what's $30 in the U.S. I think it's a good deal. I'm not going to tell anybody they're fake. You're not going to tell anybody they're fake. I'm going to wear these loud and proud. Freddy Krueger. But, we got movie news to discuss, y'all. I like how they even gave me a Nike box. Like, like it's actually dead roommate. But some of the movie news we're going to be discussing here today, guys, is for one, what's going on with Marvel right now. Because a lot is happening since I last talked to you guys. We got delayed movies for weird reasons. They just hit a box office low. I'll be giving you my thoughts on the Garfield trailer. Good old Chris Pratt strikes again. And an update to the Coyote vs. Acme situation. That's got me very happy. That alone, so much more. You guys know the drill. Timestamps in the description. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, especially for Mexico. Tell me your favorite Mexican food while I'm here, man. I'd love to know. All right, kicking things off here with the Garfield trailer that was released, revealing to us Chris Pratt as the famous orange cat. And you know what? Compared this to his Mario voice, his nasty Chris Pratt voice, that's pretty fine for Garfield. I'm really liking the animation style. They gave us little baby Garfield. That's always how they sneak away nowadays, showing us a baby version of the animated characters we love. Aside from that, the world does look very lovely, and some of the humor even got to me in here. That the one part where Garfield's like, "I've never jumped." Same, my friend.
You ever jumped the train?
I've never jumped.
The only thing kind of making me hesitant on this movie, and it was none of the footage, but it's the plot synopsis that I'm like, that's what you're doing with the Garfield movie? Okay. So some of you might have seen there was the Samuel Jackson Garfield cat that showed up, and that's actually his father in the movie. That's right, Garfield's father makes an appearance, and the plot synopsis that they have at the bottom of the trailer is Garfield, voiced by Chris Pratt, the world-famous Monday-hating, lasagna-loving indoor cat, is about to have a wild outdoor adventure. After an unexpected reunion with his long-lost father, scruffy, stray cat Vic, Samuel Jackson, Garfield and his canine friend Odie are forced from their perfectly pampered life into joining Vic in a hilarious high-stakes heist. I like heist. I like Garfield. I'm not sure if that's the direction I wanted with this one, but then again, I didn't think the sequel to his live-action movie would be him going to London. I guess Garfield is just one of those characters where nothing other than lasagna and hating Mondays is really his story, so you could do anything with the cat. And they decided with a heist film. I'm going to give it a chance, but it was not what I was expecting. Overall, though, I did like the trailer.
Whatever. Wait.
Who killed him? Now we got a new little update. They're saying Masters of the Universe movie Eye's new home at Amazon after Netflix exits. Yeah, that was the last home for Masters of the Universe live action. It was going to be with Netflix. Noah Centineo was already cast as He-Man. I thought he was going to do a fine enough job, and I thought Netflix would be the place. Although, trailer and Chris Pratt's voice. Would you go with this or his Mario voice? Let me know. Moving on here, we got a small update on the Masters of the Universe live-action movie. This is a film that's been in development hell for years. It's been with one studio, then another, then this, then that, and now we got a new little update thanks to Variety here where they're saying Masters of the Universe movie Eye's new home at Amazon after Netflix exits. Yeah, but and I'll be giving you my thoughts on the Garfield trailer, good old Chris Pratt strikes again, and an update. Let me know. Moving on here, we got a small update on the Masters of the Universe live-action movie. It's a film that's been in development hell for years. It's been with one studio, then another, then this, then that, and now we got a new little update thanks to Variety here where they're saying Masters of the Universe movie Eye's new home at Amazon after Netflix exits. Yeah, that was the last home for Masters of the Universe live-action. Already cast as He-Man. I thought he was going to do a fine enough job, and I thought Netflix would be the place to do it, but no, Amazon is now the place for He-Man, and although it's just another streaming service, I kind of prefer it. In the article, they mentioned here that Amazon is fully on board to give this a big theatrical release, so they're going to want to put in the expensive money like Amazon has been doing with their projects, even Netflix, so it's going to look grand, what I'm hoping for, and they still want to release it in theaters. I kind of dig Amazon as one of the streaming studios. They do market their projects. They give them good budgets. Sometimes they release them in theaters, as opposed to how Netflix does it, where they can spend hundreds of $millions on a show or a movie, and don't ever market it. They just release it, and they hope that some kid out there makes a TikTok and then millions of people will go watch it. That's kind of how the Netflix budgeting works. Let me know what you guys think about Amazon being a new home for the live-action He-Man movie. Moving on here, we got a tiny kind of indirect update to Scream 7 that I definitely have to talk about. It looks like we have a report by Deadline coming out today that Wednesday Season 2 with Jenna Ortega is set to begin filming late April 2024. 4. Now, the reason I bring this up is because a lot of sources online have been mentioning that Scream 7 is set to begin filming early spring 2024, so like around March. You pair that up also with another article with Melissa Barrera, Sam, who had to drop out of a movie that was scheduled to start filming in spring for scheduling conflicts. Oh, it looks like our stars are getting ready and pampered for Scream 7. That just makes me happy. Sometimes you don't know with the Hollywood strike and everything getting delayed, the projects around, the stars getting booked up, what is and isn't important. You know, as much as I love Scream, I'm not gonna lie, that Wednesday made a big impact, and Jenna Ortega just became so huge. Part of me was like, are they going to bring her back? Are they going to make it work? Or are they just going to give her like 1 or 2 scenes? This lets me know they have Scream as a priority, and I can't wait to see what Christopher Landon does with the 7th movie. But you guys see here that the stars of Scream 7 are strategically moving their schedules to be open to film in March. That gets you excited. Moving on to some Marvel topics, we've got a lot of updates since I last talked to you guys. One of the big ones that you've probably already heard by now is the delay to some of these projects. This catching up with you guys, Deadpool 3 will be released July 26th,
I didn't they fight at all.
Captain America Brave New World
Could
will be
have fought a little
14th,
bit.
2025. Fantastic Four, May 2nd, 2025. Thunderbolts, July 25th, 2025. And Blade, November 7th, 2025. Now, this was expected with the whole Hollywood strike that projects would be delayed. I'm just still very happy Deadpool 3 will be releasing in 2024 in summer. It is getting a bit of a delay from its last May release date, but I don't mind. That gives them some breathing room for the VFX to get that movie all polished up. But I for sure wanted to talk about these rumors that Captain America Brave New World is not shaping up to be good, because there was a report that came out that they were going to do 4 to 6 months of reshoots on this movie, and wow, that is not the Marvel way, buddy. What is happening, Kevin Feige? It feels like every other week we are finding out something new behind the Marvel scenes that is just making us go, what's going on? We had like the Daredevil show having to scrap their episodes, start over, fire the creative team, hire a new one. Then we hear all the weird stuff happening in Blade behind the scenes and how the stars may be threatening to leave if they don't make this movie soon. And now we got Captain America Brave New World looking to do 4 to 6 months of reshoots. That's your entire movie. A lot of Marvel movies are made within a 4 to 5 month window. If you're doing 4 to 6 months of reshoots, you're refilming that entire thing. And if the movie was that bad or unsalvageable that they need to do that many months of reshoots, where was Kevin Feige during the script process, during the story process, during the days of filming, when it should have been obvious that this project is not going the way they wanted to? You know, I'm looking at all those other Marvel movies on the list, and out of all of them, I think Captain America 4 is going to be one that could be like the Marvels, where I'm excited for it. I want Sam Wilson, Captain America, to succeed and people to check out his movie and fall in love with his character, but I have a big feeling because it's not Chris Evans, they're not going to show up, and we're going to have another soft box office opening, and that's going to suck. So whenever I heard that, that just kind of made me really sad for that movie, and I hope whatever happens, it still turns out good, but this is making me hesitant on that film. And I guess that does bring me to talk about the Marvel's box office openings this weekend, because it is now the MCU's lowest opening weekend of all time at $47 million. The previous bottom record holder was The Incredible Hulk at $55 million, and man, like, it's just sad. I think the biggest thing that makes me wonder about the Marvels is what made that opening so good. Because I think there's so many factors. Everybody wants to point at one thing. Oh, it's the Captain Marvel haters thinking it's just that. Oh, it's all women superhero movie, so it's that. It's so many factors. There's the strike. The actresses couldn't promote the movie. I also think the Disney Plus and oversaturation of Marvel content has just really burnt out some people or even interested them to go. Fans and audiences, I think, are going to become extremely picky about what Marvel movies they go see. Kind of like DC films, you know? Unless it's Batman or freaking Batman related, like Joker, DC people aren't showing up, and Marvel might be headed that way, where unless it's a big star, like Spider-Man, an Avengers film, you're just not going to have people showing up like they used to, and that is sad. And I hope Marvel takes this as a wake-up call and they kind of reassess their projects and maybe really focus on the quality. I mean, I was looking at some of these bottom lower numbers, and it kind of blows my mind that something like Shang-Chi opened at over $70 million when that was like a brand new, unknown, never heard of hero. But just because it had that Marvel banner, people bought a ticket, and it looks like those days are gone. Let me know what you guys think about all these Marvel updates. Another big thing I definitely wanted to talk about with you guys is this whole Coyote versus Acme situation, because it's been a roller coaster. So if you haven't heard by now, I did make a separate video where I ranted off. I got really upset that the only live-action CGI hybrid Looney Tunes movie that was coming up, Coyote vs. Acme, was essentially canceled the same way Batgirl was. It was a 100% completed movie, and they thought, nah, we're never going to show this to anybody just to save some money for tax purposes. Why are you doing that, Warner Brothers? And Hollywood and people came through. In article about Hollywood Authority, Warner Brothers has been forced by Coyote vs. Acme after
should have just ran or attacked directly. It's cool.
One, they're saying
It's
that
cool.
Warner Brothers is now willing to shop the movie around to different buyers. We've heard this in the first report, that although Warner Brothers just wanted to write it off for tax purposes, other studios and streaming services were willing to buy it, and they just didn't want to do that. So Warner Brothers will now be screening the movie from Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Universal, Paramount, which I am hearing are the most wanted buyers right now, so this could still very likely get a theatrical release instead of just ending up on streaming. If I had to put my money on it, I'm going to go with like Amazon winning it. I mean, they just came out with a teaser trailer for another Warner Brothers property they bought off of them, Merry Little Batman, where it's basically Home Alone, but for Batman. The other interesting thing I saw here is, other than fans like me getting up on streaming, if I had to put my money on it, I'm going to go with like Amazon winning it. I mean, they just came out with a teaser trailer for another Warner Brothers property they bought off of them, Merry Little Batman, where it's basically Home Alone, but for Batman. The other interesting thing I saw here is, other than fans like me getting online and being upset at Warner Brothers, the filmmakers and people in Hollywood were also pissed. It got revealed that after the news broke, a bunch of filmmakers in Hollywood started calling up Warner Brothers and canceling their meetings for possibly doing movies with them and deciding to take their creative ideas to another studio. And that's exactly what I was talking about whenever I heard about Coyote vs. Acme. Why would any writer, filmmaker, director, actor want to work at Warner Brothers, pour in a year or two of their lives, passion and sweat, for them just to call them up and say, for tax purposes, your movie's never going to be seen? That is heartbreaking to so many people. Warner Brothers is losing a lot of street cred right there, and Coyote vs. Acme was just another straw that broke the camel's back. So yeah, as a Looney Tunes fan, super happy that this movie could possibly see the light of day. Warner Brothers is getting their just desserts out of it, and I think we're all winning. I throw it off to you guys. What do you think about the Coyote vs. Acme situation? Roller coaster ride that it's been. Bringing us here to an update on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Man, this movie just continues to win nonstop. I don't know if you've heard by now, but it is now the #1 highest grossing box office movie of 2023. I'm thinking about making a video just talking about that list, because I think it's always interesting to see what people are willing to buy tickets for in terms of horror movies they want to see. But right now it is #1 at $250 million worldwide, and with the strike now being over, we finally have Matthew Lillard talking a little bit about the movie, William Afton, and I wanted to share some of his comments because I did find them interesting. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Matthew Lillard said, "I play a monster who at the end of the day gets his comeuppance and is thrown into this horror realm that he's created. The hard part about playing this part is the pressure I put on myself to honor the fans, to deliver a great performance in an iconic role. I'm excited to see when they greenlight the second movie, the plan we put together to make it even bigger and even more successful." Those have to be exciting words. Again, even if you didn't love the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, I think we can all agree Matthew Lillard as William Afton was the best part and should have been the character that got more screen time. I still wish we got more of that, but I think they're going to learn from that and give Matthew Lillard so much more screen time in the next movie, whether it be in flashbacks or him in the spring bodysuit that I guess we're just calling now Yellow Rabbit. But hearing him say that he hopes to greenlight the second movie, which is definitely going to happen. This movie makes so much money, regardless of the negative reviews, it's going to get a sequel. I think he already knows the idea for what they're going to do in the second film, and that he knows it's going to be bigger and more successful. I want to see what that means, because again, Five Nights at Freddy's, that movie was made for fans, and luckily enough fans showed up to make that a big success. But there was still a chunk of people that were disappointed with that movie, or they went in expecting to see something and it just didn't work for them. Mostly a lot of general audience members that wanted to be part of the hype, and because they didn't know anything Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie was a little confusing to them. Seeing the box office for the second movie to me is going to be so fascinating, because that'll let me know how many fans
with
stay
assault
to
rifles or
come back.
explosives.
Either
I
way,
can
it's
do
just great to
that.
hear Matthew Lillard
Let's
talk
get it
about
up.
the movie and that he knows it's going to be greenlit. Let me know what your
your guys' thoughts are on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie success, and that people are finally talking about it, and if you're as curious as me about the box office changes of the movie. But that is all the movie news I currently have going on for you guys. I want to thank you so much for your time and day to watch me talk movie news. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me when I'm not at the studio and a little late on some news. Y'all are the absolute best, and I love doing this for you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films, or on TikTok at 3C Films. As always,
Nothing.
Chris.
Absolutely nothing
Yeah.
but a bush. Nothing but a bush.
Thanks to Thrive Market for sponsoring this video.
You can replace that thing with something better.
Hey, welcome back to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy. So the Loki Season 2 finale answered a lot of our burning questions, but it also opened the door for even more questions than before. So I want to break down Loki's new role as the overseer of the multiverse and how he can still be stuck in a He Who Remains or a Boris loop. And of course, we're going to talk about how all of this will play into the impending multiversal war in Avengers the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Okay, so we learned in this episode that He Who Remains never intended on letting Sylvie kill him. He always knew that he would come back.
I was gonna sit back and let her kill reincarnation.
A lot of what He Who Remains did and said in the Season 1 finale was revealed to be a lie. But what was seemingly true is that he was tired and handpicked Loki to be his replacement. Loki spends centuries working diligently to expand the temporal loom's capacity, and eventually they succeed.
It's working.
Alright, okay. Okay, the shotguns in this game. The shotguns in this game. Not with at all. Goodness
It's here that Loki realizes that he's going to have to go back and stop Sylvie from ever killing He Who Remains. Sylvie says,
if you want to stop me, you're going to have to
kill me! Loki also learns here that the loom is nothing but a failsafe. And keep that word in mind. Failsafe, because I think that we could still be living out one of He Who Remains' many failsafes, but more on that in just a bit.
This person, I am starving. There is never any food around here.
Well, actually, you don't.
Hey there, do you guys have any food? No, we were just talking about how there is no food. Yeah, you know, you're at a video store at the end of existence, so it's really hard to get fresh, healthy food. Yeah, healthy, sustainable living is very hard in such a rural area.
There has to be a better way.
Guys,
there is a better way. Look at all this food I got for the holiday party.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, check it out. I got gluten-free mac and cheese. I got fig jam, cereal, big bag of dates, dried mangoes, organic chocolate truffles.
Person, did you steal all that food?
No, buddy, I got this when I became a member of Thrive Market. They're the sponsor of this video. This is an online, community-based grocery store with a guaranteed savings on every single order. They curate the best products that you would find in a health food store, and they discount it 40% of the retail price. And they can do this because of the membership system. Memberships are $12 a month, but annual memberships are only $5 a month. Totally worth it. Like, I spent $100 on my first order, but look at that. I had $57 in savings. Like, these are the highest quality, organic, and sustainable products. You can find a lower price somewhere else. Order something for $3 free, carbon neutral shipping. This is a great way to do your Thanksgiving shopping. They have frozen meals and
Sissy.
Sure. You get $30 off your first order and a free gift worth up to $60. Just go to thrivemarket.com/screencrush and sign up today. You will not regret it. Now, back to what I was saying. Anyways, Loki decides that he's going to rewrite the equation of multiversal existence.
I'll change the equation. I'll break your loop.
He thinks that he can do what He Who Remains couldn't, allow for a vast multiverse with free will while simultaneously preventing a war that destroys everything. He Who Remains seems exhausted by Loki thinking he can change the inevitable. And I don't think He Who Remains' exhaustion with Loki is necessarily coming from a bad place. It could be that He Who Remains has gone down a similar path to Loki eons ago in his own quest to find a way to save all of existence. A path that ultimately led to the creation of the sacred timeline. After all, he did say,
Kill it. And we protect what we can.
So why does Loki think that he can save the multiverse?
Well, I mean, that's what's unclear. I mean, we see Loki go out on a bridge to destroy the loom, and then he uses his magic to revive the dying timelines. He then weaves them into what looks like Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil?
Well, in Norse mythology, Yggdrasil is the tree of life that encompasses all worlds. We actually hear Thor talk about it to explain the 9 realms in the first Thor movie.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
I'm just kidding, I meant here.
My father explained it to me like this, that your world is one of the 9 realms of the cosmos, linked to each other by the branches of Yggdrasil, the world's tree.
And if you'll notice there, he said his father told him about Yggdrasil, which means that Loki was likely taught Yggdrasil as well. And those teachings from Odin is what inspired Loki to morph the multiverse into this tree-like structure. Also, be sure to check out our Loki and the Marvels-inspired merch at our merch store, where we designed the shirts ourselves. We've got our Mobius on a Mobius riding his jet ski, a restrained Flurkin, Doug is a Flurkin,
I do not consider my life as being used
and so much more. Shopping our merch store is the best way to directly support everything we do here at the channel, and now we also have channel memberships where you can get custom badges, priority replies, and it's another great way to support the channel. And while I have you, I also want to mention our live show coming up in Brooklyn on February 22nd, where you can meet me and the whole Screen Crush team in person. Links for all of those things are below, so hope to see you there. Now, while we get to see Loki create this multiversal tree, they never really explained how he was able to do this. I mean, I guess if Loki is now the god of stories like he is in the comics, then he'd theoretically be able to control the story of the multiverse and just, like, not let a war happen.
Wait, back up. God of stories? I thought he was the god of mischief.
Okay, so let me explain. In the Secret Wars adjacent comic book series, Loki, Agent of Asgard, we see Loki become the god of stories. Now, in the comic, Loki followed a similar path to his MCU counterpart. Now, like in the MCU, comic Loki had died, but when presented with an opportunity for a second chance at life, Loki decided to rewrite his story.
I can rewrite the story.
He no longer wanted to go down the path of a villain doomed to fail. He wanted to change. Eventually, this Loki learned how to navigate the multiverse and literally freeze time, just like we saw in the season 2 finale. So in the comics, Loki used this ability to rewrite his own story and made it to where he was never the god of mischief and instead the god of stories, a very powerful and almost omnipotent being. And that is the glorious purpose that Loki found in the season 2 finale, taking on the role of the single thread, holding all of existence together, very similar to the Greek titan Atlas, who held existence on his shoulders, except for one key detail. Atlas was being punished while Loki made a sacrifice, just like we predicted he would in this video here.
Congratulations, you're a prophet.
And can we talk for a minute about how huge this is? I mean, we have seen some powerful beings in the MCU. Thanos, Scarlet Witch, Captain Marvel, the Celestials, I could go on. But all of these characters exist within the very strands of reality that Loki is holding together. Their lives are literally in his hands. Loki is arguably the most powerful being in the entire Marvel multiverse. But Loki's entire reason for overthrowing He Who Remains was to allow for free will.
Loki is free will. Everyone's dead.
And part of that free will is allowing He Who Remains variants to exist, as we saw at the end of the episode when they mentioned Quantum Mania's Kang.
Caused a little bit of a ruckus on 616 adjacent room, but they handled it, so we're all good for now.
Now, more on that, specifically Kang, in a sec, because he is definitely coming back.
I'll be back.
So I'd really like to get a clearer picture on how exactly Loki's plan differs from He Who Remains' and what Loki's plan is to prevent the multiversal war from happening. He Who Remains' sacred timeline kept variants of himself from coming into existence, variants that would try to overthrow him and start another multiversal war. Loki's plan, on the other hand, allows for the multiverse to expand beyond that of the sacred timeline, and as a result, Kang's variants can come into being. So it's not really clear what Loki is going to be able to do differently than He Who Remains to stop these Kangs from taking over. I mean, is his plan really to have the TVA just take on any He Who Remains variant that stirs up trouble? I'm pretty sure that He Who Remains would have tried that approach to begin with. And I suspect that the result was that his variants were too difficult to defeat. That's why the easiest path was just to not allow them to exist. He Who Remains said,
My variants are already. We'll find them. There's too many.
And we know this Council of Kangs has come into existence. The Quantum Mania Kang that we hear mention of having been defeated was banished to the Quantum Realm by this council. So they're already plotting their takeover. And they have to be pretty powerful because they seem to be existing outside of time and space. In that post-credit scene, we can see them looking out at the branching multiverse, which we can also see here at the top of Loki's multiversal tree. Now, as of right now, the Kangs don't seem to know that the TVA exists.
They're beginning to
to touch the multiverse.
But the TVA also doesn't seem to know that this Council of Kangs exists. But I think they'll discover them soon, and then they are going to come for Loki. And that is what brings me to our big theory. We are still in an Ouroboros loop. Now, we know that the multiversal war has happened before, and that it will happen again. So what if we are still on the path that led to that first multiversal war? We have theorized before that Kang the Conqueror from Quantumania is the Kang who went on to become He Who Remains. In Quantumania, we see this Kang talk about how the multiverse needed order, and he even envisioned the sacred timeline. In the Loki Season 1 finale, we also hear He Who Remains say,
I've been dubbed many names by many people. Conqueror.
Now, I think that this very Kang is on the same path to becoming He Who Remains. I think part of He Who Remains' original ascendancy not only included defeating his variants, but he also overthrew the TVA and the god at the end of time, Loki. In the final moments of the season 2 finale, we saw Ravonna in the void at the end of time. Here, Ravonna is coming into contact with Elias.
I can see his atom energy. We're in a shark tank.
Now, we know that He Who Remains is the variant that tamed Elias and weaponized him to end the multiversal war.
I weaponized Elias. I ended the multiversal war.
So here's our theory. That scientist variant we heard about in the Season 1 finale became Kang the Conqueror and attempted to defeat his other variants and win the multiversal war. He then got banished by his variants to the quantum realm like we saw in Quantumania. That Kang was then defeated and sucked into his multiversal engine core. And after being sucked into that core, he was essentially pruned. And where do you think you go when you get pruned?
The nursing home?
No, the void at the end of time. And in this void at the end of time, Kang will find Elias. And Elias will obey Kang because the beast was already serving and protecting Kang's future self, He Who Remains. Kang will tame Elias, and that is when he will come across a woman he doesn't recognize, Ravonna Renslayer. Ravonna will recognize him, though, and she will join him in his quest to conquer the multiverse, just like we saw here in Season 2. Now, in Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, I think we're going to see Kang and Ravonna roll in on Elias and help the Avengers defeat the Kang variants attacking Universe 616. Kang and Ravonna will then travel to the end of time and find the mysterious god there at the end of time. It's there that we will see a parallel of the Loki Season 1 finale play out. In the Season 1 finale, we saw Loki and Sylvie enchant Elias and enter the Citadel at the end of time, all with the intent of killing the man behind the curtain, He Who Remains. This time around, it will be Kang and Ravonna traveling to the end of time to find the god behind the curtain, Loki.
Yeah, it's like poetry. It's not a big rhyme.
As we discussed all season, we are living in an Ouroboros, meaning that the same thing happens again and again and again, and things like cause and effect can be swapped. Exactly. We got the best example of that in this scene between Ouroboros and Mr. Tyson.
Exactly which came first.
It's like a snake eating into a tank. Now, I think this citadel at the end of time has been destroyed and built time and time again throughout all of eternity, switching between being Loki's throne and He Who Remains' palace.
Wait, so are you saying this is not the first time Loki visited this throne at the end of time?
Exactly. And I think that we got clues that this was the case when we saw Loki walk up these invisible stairs. It's almost as if, on a cosmic level, his very essence knew these steps were there because they always have been and they always will be.
So wait, who was there first? Loki or He Who Remains?
Well, buddy, there is no first. I think the Citadel and the TVA have just always been. We know that He Who Remains paved the path for Loki to find him because he wanted Loki to take over for him. But why Loki? Because Loki is the one he took the throne from to begin with. He also knows that if he lets Loki take control, that will result in his younger self coming into existence as that scientist that we saw in Season 1. Scientist who becomes Kang the Conqueror and goes on to overthrow Loki. And after he beats Loki and wins the multiversal war, he will have the statues of himself erected throughout the TVA. And he'll have Ravonna and every other Asian member wiped who don't remember the way the TVA was run under Loki.
Remember.
Are you sure?
Erase all their memory.
Okay, but why does he erase Ravonna's mind? It's never really clear.
Well, this Ouroboros shows us exactly why. This Ravonna will know things that Kang doesn't, and Kang won't like that. This Ravonna will also know that Kang, or He Who Remains, is destined to betray her, like she saw in that vision from Miss Menace. So Ravonna will likely be planning to beat He Who Remains to the punch and overthrow him, but as usual, He Who Remains is many steps ahead and wipes her memory, making her forget that he ever betrayed her. I think we'll also learn that Ravonna has been trying to manipulate Kang from their very first meeting, hoping that she can change her future, but in an Ouroboros, destiny always arrives. Meaning, the original reason He Who Remains ever wiped her memory to begin with was because of her planned betrayal and having known that he betrayed her. Again, it's retro causality.
Sounds like a bunch of bull stuff.
Excuse me?
Nothing, go on.
And after eons and eons and eons of ruling alone, creating the fiction of the Timekeeper to protect himself from being discovered like how Loki was, Kang, or now He Who Remains, will be tired and want a replacement. So he will pave the path for the younger self of the god he once overthrew to return to his throne. Once again, guaranteeing He Who Remains own reincarnation. Once again, showing us another
That's so
He Who
stupid.
Remains failsafe to stay in power.
Run and run and run and run.
He Who Remains made it clear that he is all about fail-safes to stay in power. Whether it be the temporal loom or the time-slipping loom he placed Loki in, he always has a backup plan. And I think that we are living out yet another He Who Remains backup plan. Okay, so we are now trapped in this Ouroboros here where Kang and Loki are essentially taking turns being rulers of the multiverse. But this time around, Loki will finally put a stop to it. Instead of Loki dying at the hands of Kang when he's overthrown, we'll learn that Thor followed Kang to the end of time after Kang helped them defeat his variants. It is there that Thor will find his defeated brother. And after a heartwarming reunion between the two, we will see Thor go on to fight Kang for what he has done to his brother. In the distance, we'll see Kang forming his new citadel. Loki will stop Thor and tell him that now's not the time, but that he has a plan. Loki will explain that he saw this coming, that he saw himself die at the hands of Kang. But what he didn't see was the arrival of his brother. It's this moment that will be the Nexus event that throws a wrench into this eternal loop. Like in the comics, Loki will become Avenger Prime. In the comics, there is a storyline where Loki flies into the sun, but he doesn't die. He finds himself at the God Quarry, a place that's very similar to He Who Remains Citadel at the end of time. With the multiverse at threat, Loki formed a team of Avengers from throughout the multiverse, and he himself became Avenger Prime. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see happen in Avengers Secret Wars. Loki surviving Kang's attack will be a Nexus event that results in the total destruction of the multiverse. Loki and Thor will then travel across the dying multiverse using TVA tech, and they will form a multiversal team of Avengers to stand off against Kang. And this big battle will take place on the last remaining planet in all of existence, Battle World. And I think it's here that we will meet a new version of He Who Remains, the Beyonder.
Beyonder? I like that.
In the Secret Wars comics, the Beyonder is this cosmic level entity that actually brought everyone to Battle World. Now, in the comics, the Beyonder, the last remaining planet in all of existence, Battle World. And I think it's here that we will meet a new version of He Who Remains, the Beyonder.
Beyonder? I like that.
In the Secret version is He Who Remains. This version's Kang will act a lot like He Who Remains, and we'll see he and Loki have a candid discussion about their place in the multiverse, very similar to the one that we got in the season 1 finale. And ultimately, Loki will realize that in order to fully put a stop to the Ouroboros that kept putting Kang back in power, both of them have to be removed from reality. And that is when Loki will make an even bigger sacrifice than what we saw in season 1 finale, himself and Kang out of all time and space. Thus, rebooting the Marvel Multiverse and rebooting the MCU. Guys, that's just our thoughts on what's going to happen next. Do you have any theories? Let us know in the comments below. And big shout out to the writer of this video, Mr. Colton Onford. You can find his Twitter and mine below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Aaron.
Tom, it is great to see you, especially after you just dropped the best MCU title possibly ever. This was fantastic.
You're so kind. Thank you so much. And I just want to salute your TVA t-shirt that I can see you wearing. I love that. You look great.
Thank you so much. I have watched this finale so many times, and I want to start with one specific thing that a lot of people have caught on to, is you call back to Thor 1 when you say, for you, for all of us, at the kind of final line in Loki. I hear from your directors and writers that that was your idea. So I would love to hear about how you dug into that encyclopedic Loki knowledge to land on that incredible line of dialogue.
That's great. Well, it's very sweet of them to
Come on. Really?
I think it's testament to the spirit of collaboration and
that's ridiculous.
The shared imagination that the producers and directors created on that set. The set never felt locked. It never felt constrictive. It was always live, very live environment. Everybody could have, anyone could have an idea at any time. And it's not always like that. So big respect to Kevin Wright, Justin Benson, Aaron Moorhead, Dan DeLue, and Castro Farahani, and our whole team, and Eric Martin, our head writer, because it just felt like until something was locked, until we were shooting something, we could still have a great idea. Anyway, long story short, there was a moment. Aaron and Justin turned to me and said, "I think in about 30 minutes we're going to be down in the airlock, and it's time." And I stepped out of the stage, and I went for a walk, and then I actually went for a little jog around the lot. It was a really beautiful morning, and I felt very. I felt the kind of weight of the moment in a really profound way. That, like, this is it. This is everything I've been working towards for so long. And I was listening to some music, and it was a mixture of film scores, but one of them was the score from Thor by Patrick Doyle. And suddenly it just came to me in a flash. It was just genuine, like, inspiration. Like, that's what I say at the end. You know, to Anthony Hopkins. Maybe that's what it should be now, but it means something very different. The resonance, the echo, the depth. It's new. It's new minted and it's redefined. And it just felt right. And I ran back in and I said to Aaron and Justin and Kevin and Eric, I said, "I've got it." They said, "Okay." And they all shut their eyes, and I said it, and they opened their eyes and went, "Yes." And then we did. Yeah.
What a story. I mean, the finale, I've watched it so many times. It's incredible, and that line is perfect. I mean, kudos to you. And it's interesting because you say it means something very different. But at the end of the show, Loki now sits on the throne as the god of everyone's story. He's making a sacrifice where it seems he may be alone, sacrificing himself for the betterment of everyone else. In Avengers Infinity War, Loki sacrificed himself for the betterment of everyone else. So what do you think that says about the core of this character, that even though it's a little bit different, the sentiment is similar?
Well, I always saw Loki as a broken soul, but I wanted to refine the soul. In the early phases of the films, I think the emphasis was on the brokenness and how his brokenness, his vulnerability, his grief, his loss, his loneliness hardened into something vengeful and angry and malevolent in some way. But underneath it, the character has always been engaged with ideas of belonging and identity and purpose. I think the difference between that moment in Infinity War and this moment at the end of season 2 is that it's... What I found so moving about Infinity War is that Loki referred to himself as an Odin son. And so before his sacrifice, it's really a private admission of love and respect for his brother. In season 2, it's altogether deeper, more consequential, and more profound. It doesn't negate what happens in Infinity War, but I think his understanding of, as Mobius says to him, sometimes purpose is more burden than glory. I think his understanding of the weight of that is more complex and more profound.
My goodness, I could listen to your interpretation of this character all day long. Oh my gosh, it's so interesting. If this is indeed the end of the road for your journey as Loki 14 years later, is there anyone from the MCU side of this franchise that you wish you could have got a few more scenes with, or someone you never even got a chance to work with, who was in another title? Man, I wish we could have shared a set because I would have loved to see our characters together.
That's so good. Good question. I don't know. There are a couple of characters I don't think Loki ever met the Guardians, if I recall. That could have been fun. I think.
You would have got tired of them so fast.
Yeah, maybe. I think he would have found them intriguing. I think it's interesting that Loki never comes face to face with Spider-Man. I think that's correct. I think he never meets the Winter Soldier, never meets Bucky or Sam. I always wanted to see, Loki and Strange is an interesting matchup, I think. Although in Ragnarok, I think.
Come on.
Strange, that's a.
Why do I do
Strange,
it? Why
based on
can't I
that
do
particular
it?
interaction.
We need the rematch. We need
Nah,
the
but
rematch.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I find it crazy also, like, Loki and Iron Man only had, I think, 2 scenes together, maybe 3. It's just things like that when you think about it.
Yeah.
It is really cool. Thor is obviously a character that is very near and dear to Loki. Your two stories are very intertwined. This Loki at the end of season 2, I know there's been teases from the producers and stuff. We do want to see them reunite. It would be completely different versions of these characters than we've ever seen on screen together. What do you think the dynamic would be like between them at this point?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it would be one of extreme surprise and confusion, in a way. Like, also, it's really interesting that if season 2, a great thread of season 2, not just for Loki but for every character, Mobius, Sylvie, is are we in charge of our own story? And you can't know where you're going until you know where you've been. And you have to integrate your past and take responsibility for it so you can move forward into the future with meaning and purpose. And I think both Thor and Loki have had to
in comparison to his
excavate and analyze the past and who they feel they really are and what they really want. But what's interesting about family as well, this is just me thinking about it, is sometimes it will be difficult to let go of the preconception of who they used to be. You know, Loki might be expecting Thor to behave in a certain way or be a certain way. Thor might be expecting Loki to be a certain way. So I think that would be, I think initially it would be but also they've been apart for a long time. And no doubt they've been objects in each other's mind. And so, yeah, I wonder, a reunion would likely be, we'll see. We'll see.
I also saw you were at Deadpool 3 on the late night talk show there. There's no word on whether or not anything's happening there. That's another hypothetical I'd love to explore with you. Winnie Wilson has quite an outcome here. And Loki now, quite a powerful guy. He's a bit of a trick to himself. And if that's what he saw now, let's look back here and actually be like, how fun was that?
It would be hilarious. I mean, I think there would be, I'm very curious to see what Deadpool would say about it. I think he'd be withering. Although, Loki famously has a silver tongue, so I think he'd give as good as he gets.
He's quick.
Yeah.
I just refuse to believe. I know maybe this is just one of the stages of grief, but I just don't want this to be the end for Loki. It's one of my favorite characters in any medium ever. And there's plenty of theories about that. Secret Wars, maybe Loki is going to represent like the new Time Stone in Secret Wars, stuff like that. Is this something like you're ready to let go of? Have you thought about whether you're going to want to be a part of this next Avengers ensemble? Anything like that?
It's so hard because, I'll be completely honest with you, Brandon. I have at least twice in my life said goodbye. And as you know, I've written to Kevin Feige and Louis D'Esposito before a long time, but thank you so much. It's been like the role of a lifetime. They've written notes back saying, come and see us anytime. You're always part of the family. We're always here. You've given us so much. And tears have been shed. So I think I'd be unwise at this point to be conclusive about any of it.
Absolutely.
We'll see. Time will tell, I guess. An open heart, open mind.
I'm grateful for the work you put into this, and I'm hopeful to see you do it again. And so I just want to end with this stamp of approval from the fans on this show. Everybody I talk with online, everybody I talk with in life, we all have really adored what Loki Season 2 did, what you all accomplished here. I'm curious if you've seen any of the reactions and if there's anything you'd like to say to the fans who really just love going on this journey with you.
I will say this. I, as an actor, that I never take for granted that anyone in the audience is going to be, as a guarantee that people are going to be interested in what I think, what I'm doing. And I have been so honoured by the way that the audience has taken Loki into their imaginations, for this length of time. And I know Loki means so much to so many, for so many different reasons. And just, carrying the torch for the time that I have has been an absolute honour, and I'm so grateful to you. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on the journey.
It couldn't happen to a better person, man. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for the ride, and hopefully talk to you again soon, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Cheers, Brandon.
So, what actually happens at the end of Loki Season 2? We know that Loki takes all of the dying branches of time and stops them from dying. And he's now sitting on a throne at the end of time, holding the multiverse together, which now resembles Hillsborough, the World Tree. But how did this actually happen, and what the fuck does it actually mean? Language. That's what we're going to talk about in this video, and using the powers of being a gigantic freaking nerd, I'm going to try to pull all of these loose threads together, reference.
Oh my God,
what I really think is going on here with Loki at the end of season 2, and how
where were you just at?
Will return at the end of the multiverse. There's a couple of really weird things that happen in Loki in season 2, but the main thing to keep in mind for understanding what is happening with Loki is the fact that he himself does a lot of time traveling in season 2. And this begins with the time slipping.
You gotta keep your eyes open. God, look around.
It is great to see you, especially after you just dropped the best MCU title possibly ever. This was fantastic. How does it feel to be the executive producer on Marvel's best Disney Plus show? This was incredible.
I'm very proud. I'm incredibly proud.
It is awesome. The reception has been awesome. I have to start at the end with you. Loki, he's become the new He Who Remains in a sense. He built the World Tree. I would love to hear you elaborate kind of behind the scenes when you guys were developing this. How would you explain what happened, how this show culminated with Loki kind of getting his new throne at the Citadel?
I'm going to cop out, and I'm going to say, well, I'll say this. There's nothing to explain about what happens in that ending. It's all there on screen, is my answer to that. I think we worked incredibly hard to find a way to deliver a final 10 minutes of this story that is without dialogue and is just images and music and like a pure cinematic experience to sell the completion of that arc. And I think that what I would say collaboratively for a team, it was just a thing that we all had to agree on early and walk down that path, and it's like you can't back out once you go down that path. It goes into a huge fantastical VFX world, and you just have to agree what that's going to be to give it the best chance of looking amazing.
Oh yeah, you have to fully commit. And you guys, do you think there's a chance we ever see something like this on a big screen? Like for this episode, like these episodes specifically, I mean.
Look, I would love it, and I'll say this: that we obviously the sound mix is different for TV, for streaming versus theatrical. We did do a theatrical mix of that, and that was always, who knows? I think that's something that we had talked about with Disney, depending on when the strikes ended and getting everybody together. I depending on how people react to this finale, we've got a version that could be.
Hey man, I'd be there.
I did our job. We did that part.
I appreciate that. One thing I really
Shotguns and pistols, okay.
His ability to pause time. We kind of saw that in the season 1 finale, I believe, but it was represented very differently because it looked like he was teleporting. But that's a power he had that we've seen in various mediums, and now we really see it used to pause Sylvie and allow Loki to continue moving. I would love to hear about bringing that element of He Who Remains and his abilities into play, and how, was there any technical challenges in bringing that to life?
Technically, no. I mean, there's always just figuring out how you're going to nail that on the set and kind of shoot it. But again, it's like you
Chris Townsend there, Isaac Bauman on TV is amazing, Justin and Aaron are just kind of wizards on set. I think the biggest thing about that entire scene was the biggest fear in script was it can't just feel like a retread of season 1. And so it was about finding a way to make these two characters be able to be back in that moment, but for the conversation to evolve and feel like you have progressed past what they were discussing specifically in season 1. And I think part of that was you had to see what He Who Remains could do, and then the flip of that Loki is also on that level as well. And it then lets the two of them have a conversation that Loki maybe wasn't ready to have in season 1.
Oh man, that power is terrifying. So I can't. Oh, great job on this finale. This finale does clearly continue to set up Kang as a major threat going forward for the rest of the multiverse saga. And I'm sure you've seen reports that maybe the Marvel Cinematic Universe might pivot towards Doctor Doom or away from Kang. I just love to hear if you can talk about any of that and what the plans might be going forward, and if that affected the Loki finale at all.
No, nothing affected our finale. I think I said elsewhere earlier, when the show was first coming out, the story that is on screen is the one that we set out to make, remarkably so. There was no one was coming down telling us we had to connect or set up anything for the future. It was sort of finish our story that we started. As far as where it's all going, I can't say. I'm not, and not because I'm being coy. We're not a part of those projects. What I would say is, I know Michael Walters is on that, and he loves obviously this world as he created. The threat that we establish at the end of this is multiversal war will come. Sylvie is just saying, let us have a chance. I hope that people run with that, because I would love to see what that story is.
Absolutely. And speaking of Sylvie, the season 1 of Loki was an element of season 1 was Loki and Sylvie's relationship becoming romantic in a sense, and I feel like we kind of stepped away from that, but they still had a strong bond. I'd love to hear about why that was less of a focus in season 2, and we kind of explored his relationships with other characters this time around.
I think ultimately the stakes were so high, it's hard to slow down and have swooshy smooch romantic time together. But everything that's happening is because they do deeply care about each other. It is a thing of they essentially broke up at the end of season 1, and then you run into your ex again, and they're constantly at odds. And I think the tension and stress is so high because they care about each other. And I think that through line from season 1 is Sylvie saying, why aren't we seeing this the same way? And that ripple turns that tidal wave this season. Because it all comes down to that. It's two people who deeply care about each other, not being able to get on the same page. And Loki would only do what he does at the end because he cares about her, because he cares about Mobius more than anyone he's ever cared about. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's about pulling back on anything. I think it's just I think it would feel forced and unnatural to slow down and give them romantic time together. Yeah. You get to do that on Lamentus because they're stuck on a train.
That's true.
And those
we didn't have that this season.
Naturally. Yeah, we never get a chance to stop down.
Yeah, we don't really have that slow, we're just spending time, just taking up space. This is moving. This is unbelievable. Speaking of characters Loki cares about, there's been, we heard the goal was Loki and Thor reuniting at Marvel Studios. That's kind of one thing they want to see. This is a very different Loki than we've seen interact with Thor at any point, because he just left the Battle of New York and now has gone on a completely different arc. We didn't get Thor Ragnarok in Dark World, even though he experienced it. What would that reunion be like now with this Loki who has his own throne and has a glorious purpose?
That's why I kind of said that early on. That would always be my hope, is that somewhere down the line somebody gets to tell that story. Because he is so different, and because Thor is so different now too, I think that's what makes it interesting. Is I don't know. In my head, I'm I just think they would have they're weirdly different, but I think there would just be a deep internal understanding between the two of them. And I think it could be just something really beautiful and cool.
And who knows, maybe that gets 616 a little bit of favor from the God of Time now, because his brother's out there, if he needs to protect one timeline. This felt in a lot of ways like a series finale, and of course it's titled Glorious Purpose. That's the same title as the season 1 premiere. That's a bit of the Ouroboros prophecy, snake eating its own tail, coming full circle. Is this the end of Loki as a series? Do you think there's any chance at season 3? Do you have any idea what's next that you could speak about?
I will say this. I said it, and I know Eric Martin kind of repeated it. We did treat this like a one chapter to another chapter. And that was kind of a challenge from Owen after season 1. He said, nobody ever has the courage to close the book. Just like, let's close the book. Let's finish the story. And it felt right. I would say this. I love this world. I love these characters. I would love to continue telling stories with Sylvie and TVA. Obviously, I would love to tell more Loki stories if that becomes a possibility. Right now, I don't see how it is with what he's doing. But more so, I would love to continue to work with this team that made these 2 seasons of this show. And I wonder if that's something that instead of it being a Loki season 3, I would love to find a way of, like, if this was our Breaking Bad, what's our Better Call Saul?
It feels like Kevin Wright, executive producing Avengers Secret Wars, directed by Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson, is written on the wall, but we'll see. We'll see.
I think those seems ridiculous. Look, if somebody came to me, I would love to.
Kevin, honestly, congratulations. This season of Loki was phenomenal start to finish. You guys absolutely knocked it out of the park, and I can't wait to see what you pick up next with Sarah Marvel.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Aaron, Justin, you two just dropped the best Disney Plus show. I mean, how you feeling?
Thank you. That's so nice. Nice TV show.
Oh, thank you. I thought it would be fitting for today. Thank you for the excellent season of Loki. Congratulations. I think I got to see the first 4 episodes early, and they ended on that insane cliffhanger, and now finally having filled in 5 and 6, much like season 1, it kind of takes a turn and goes like in this crazy new direction for the final couple episodes, and it has a really satisfying finish. I would love to hear, I know it's such a constant collaboration, things are always changing. How did you guys land on this ending? Was there ever another plan in place? Did you guys almost went in an entirely different direction?
That's great.
We realized, I think it was when they pitched the ending to us, is when we were hooked. They brought us into a room to discuss if we were going to do season 2, and there was a lot said. It was all super interesting. It was beautiful artwork they've been working on the wall, and then they told us the ending, and it was this. It wasn't a victory. It was a bittersweet tragedy in a way, and yet everybody still gets exactly what they deserve and what we kind of want, and it's gonna gut wrench us without it being depressing. It's gonna just feel like everyone grew up, and that was extremely exciting to us. So I'm sure there were earlier generations as everyone was figuring it out, but when we were on board, that was our earliest hook.
I mean, what a finish! It was awesome. And in this finale, you got to kind of introduce the MCU to Gangberry and He Who Remains, and his ability to pause time and make people freeze in time. Which is something I've seen in comics, I've seen in animation. We saw it in the season 1 finale, but in a different way. Pause version looked like he was teleporting. I love you about bringing that to life, and if there were any technical challenges, kind of having Sylvie be frozen there while Tom and Jonathan were moving around her.
Obviously, there's the effects out there, but I remember watching God, this must have been just like, you almost didn't have to. She's so good at these things. She's good at everything. Yeah. She's so good at playing Frozen.
Yeah. And then there's some poor artist that Frame Story just rotoscoped her for 20 million hours to make her totally freeze. But yeah. It was the VFX supervisor, Chris Townsend, made it super seamless. So we could just shoot it kind of like how you think. She froze the best she could. And then when she disappeared, she ran on set. We continued the scene. Actually, we've been talking about time slip. Because every time he time slipped, he had to time slip 20 different ways. Every single time he did it, in and out. and Tom always committed 8 billion%. And it was also really funny because we were doing it. I'm just going to keep going. We were doing a scene. We had a time slip out, but the scene continued. He would go, and then he'd freeze, and then he'd scamper as fast as he could to the sidelines. And it was so
Release the time slipping cut. Put that on the 4K steelbook when it drops in like 3 years. Yeah, we'll just watch Tom time slip for 20 minutes. OB's warehouse, when he was the author in the branch timeline, the bones of that room are very familiar to the bones of his room in the TVA, and I'm wondering if that's intentional. If we are to interpret that as like, oh, maybe that is kind of the origin of how this all came to be.
That's brilliant. So camera right there. Mm-hmm. It was obviously also a brilliant director. Did episode 3. 2, I got that right.
You got that right.
Numbers get starts to trip.
Yeah.
But no, that's his brilliance. That was such a cool set.
You know what's funny is there's a joke that's like implicit in there that I just love, which is he's like, I'm a sci-fi author, and Loki's like, I'm doomed. He's like, but this is really embarrassing. I also have a PhD, and I have to work at Caltech or something like that. And it's like exactly what you read. He's so embarrassed by having a PhD instead of being a sci-fi.
Speaking of writers, I have a question for Eric, but I would love to hear from you guys on this one because in the final moments there's a line that mirrors the dialogue from Thor 1, where Loki says to Mobius and Sylvie this time, for you, for all of us, and he says that to Odin in Thor 1, and that clearly is mirroring, how far Loki has come since he was on that villainous path at the end of Thor 1. For you guys, what did you guys want us to take away in a moment like that shows who this character has become now in the season 2 finale of Loki?
That he's this person, or he's not a person. He was a for many movies and many episodes of the TV show. He was slowly becoming not just the antagonist of the show, but gaining his humanity. Then at final moment, he sees fully gained his humanity, but that he must sacrifice for a greater good.
Actually, that line was something we were working with on the day. And it didn't originally have the callback to Thor. And Tom, as we were doing a lot of takes of it because we knew it was his last line in the show. And Tom said, what if we did a callback to the very beginning? And we did I think one take of it, and we were like, that's it.
Amazing. I'm interviewing him on Monday. I'm so glad you told me that because I'm going to bring that up. Thank you.
Tom, in addition to being one of the nicest people on the planet, Tom is the greatest historian on the planet.
Yeah.
That's good to know. It's always better when the actors really, really care. That makes everything better.
Amazing.
That's cool. One thing we've noticed in following Marvel Studios through the years is that once they develop a good relationship with filmmakers, they love to keep them in-house and put them on the next project. You guys are the latest example. Coming from Moon Knight, now to Loki, going on to Daredevil. I'm just going to put this out there. There's a movie culminating Secret Wars. I mean, having done multiverse stuff now, it's a little movie. It's supposed to be, it rhymes with Schmeek and Schmorst. So I want to see, is that something you guys are interested in? Is that are you guys interested in going on to movies once you're done with Daredevil?
You know what's funny is we come from independent feature films, so we come from movies. There's absolutely no telling what our future holds.
It's hard to say. Right now, we sort of have a day-to-day from this company that where we mostly are I guess we describe ourselves as filmmakers, but more specifically, we're like writer, director, actor, editors. And that's kind of a different life than this one.
Yeah.
But that said, there's always this life now. We just try to
They do each other really well too. We like to make sure they both stay alive.
That's awesome. I mean, it's funny because the comparison I'm making here is obviously the Russo brothers who started on Cap and went on to Infinity War and Endgame. My favorite thing that they do is have ensemble casts and make every character matter, and that's exactly what you did in Loki. So I feel like you guys, I'd love to see it, but I'm getting ahead of myself, obviously, because your next project is already in Daredevil, and that's a project that has had success on television already, much like Loki did. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Obviously, people really love the style of Daredevil before the TVMA nature of it. So I assume there's things you want to keep, things you got to do freshly. Can you talk about your approach with those things in mind?
You know what's so funny? And I know it's gonna sound like we're just dodging you or something. It is such early days. This is the first time 20 minutes ago we just walked into our office. So and figured out the Wi-Fi code. So like besides the general feeling of extreme excitement about it, we're still figuring it out.
Can I ask what it was about the project that kind of made you feel excited to join?
We're huge fans of especially the Frank Miller run, the Born Again run. We're huge fans of the team. We're huge fans of so many things to do with that character.
With all the actors on the show.
And all the just so many actors we respect on the show. I think growing up, if I became a comic book guy, I would be a poser. However, I was somewhat of a comic book guy, and Daredevil was one of those characters I was really into as a child. So there's always that aspect of it, that thing you can't deny. It's like brought into your DNA when you're very little.
Oh, man. Well, listen, guys, you guys killed it with Loki Season 2. I want to end it with this. You gave us our last shot. Loki is on his new throne. He's the god of time. In your opinion, how would you summarize what has happened there? Because you committed so wholeheartedly to this just bonkers sequence where it just came out so well. He's pulling all the timelines together. He sits on the throne. He's got his horns. You know, how did you describe what was happening there? How would you want the audience to take? What do you want us to take away from that? For this says Loki after this show.
Can I have a go at it? One of the early days discussions about how we were going to be treating the entire final episode, especially the last half of the final episode, was we were actually looking at the Wikipedia for Loki, not the comic book character, but the actual god, and he was the god of stories. And when we looked up at the whiteboard, the same one that we were talking about earlier, that Tom and Kevin, the producer, brought us in to see, they had written God of Stories. It was just a little note somewhere. And we really, really latched onto that. And so we feel like somebody who is the god of mischief, is, the god of chaos and trickery and all of that, has transformed into... No, I wouldn't even say the god of time. I'd say he's the god of everyone's story. And he's a librarian that protects it and allows it to flourish.
That's awesome, guys. I mean, it was fantastic. I loved it. I've watched it a couple times already. Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations, and I know you got more things to do, and you got to get to work on there. So good luck with all of that.
Thank you.
Have fun, guys. Enjoy the ride.
To wrap up those characters in some way, and maybe not like the buddy comedy version where Loki and Thor are hanging out for a whole movie, but like Thor kind of finishes his story and then ends up, maybe he's like strands or something like that. Hey, welcome back to the break room, everybody. I am so thankful to be here with an esteemed panel today to talk about Loki Season 2, Episode 6. I have Augie, Corkin, and Jim Orchard here. Hello! Well, that'll be for the audience to pick whether we're esteemed or esteemed. But there's so much. What a huge episode. We're going to get into some people answering questions about Victor Timely, Loki, OB, Mobius. What's the future for a lot of these characters? What happened in that finale? We'll dab our tears. And no. That won't be. That's where the tears are coming from.
No, you bushes. I'm shooting every bush from now on. Every one of them.
I'm sorry. Don't forget to watch the breakdown.
No bush will survive.
Watch the breakdown on the Rockstar's channel. By the time you see this, I heard we got to get it out Friday evening, where the editing staff is pounding away right now.
Eric was up till 5 a.m. I will say that. He was up till 5 a.m. getting that out. Apparently it was a really, really tricky one, and he was working around the clock. So you know it's going to be good, but just be gentle because he's bringing it.
None of us are up to 5 a.m. Feel free to unleash the hounds on us.
I don't agree to this.
I'm actually a little fragile.
Okay, fair.
Hey,
Be
man.
nice. How about be nice all the time? That's a good mantra. Be nice all the time. You know, we've already assembled a panel of friends. We traveled the multiverse to find them. The least we can do is be kind. Let's jump. I want to jump right into, I think the biggest
This the guy
question
from the beginning of
coming
the
out of
game.
this, will we see Loki again? Will Tom Hiddleston portraying the God of Mischief show up in
Why
the
is he
MCU
running?
again? And
Why
if
are
so,
you running?
do you think he will? In what project will we see him next?
We're not going to see him for a while.
Okay.
And it's going to be a big one when he shows up again, because he has a big job on his hands now. He can't just pop in for, Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
I think that he is much like the Watcher now, because all of his appearances now are in continuity as around time. He's been at the end of time, now he's at the beginning of time, so all of his appearances are already canon as something, so I think it needs to be something out of time. I think we see him as something that's beyond power, like he's going to be like a living tribunal, a celestial, something of great magnitude, so when you see him, you know it's important, much like the Watcher, but I think that'll be a big cameo pop.
Let's go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Wow.
One of the teams. I don't think he's going to be that much.
You brought it home.
Responsibilities. Okay. He's got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Brought it
Let's
home.
go.
I mean, I just don't want to. That throne. I think the metaphor of the throne weighing heavy, the crown weighing heavy, like.